Okay, so I'd like us to look at the zeros of the polynomial to quickly solve these two questions that we have here. And whenever you hear the word zeros of a polynomial, it just means find those values of x that when you plug them into your polynomial equation, that you get your answer as equal to 0. So it means that for the first one, let's start with the first one. We're looking for the values of x, then when we say p1 of x, our answer will become what? 0, right? So what it means is that I will equate all my answer here, all my value, that's the equation I have here, x squared minus 5x plus 6 as equal to 0. So I come and I write this as x squared minus 5x plus 6, and I say equal to 0. Now this looks like what? A quadratic equation. And I can solve this either using my factorization method or my quadratic formula method or my computing the square method or even the push and lose method if need be. Now how can I, let me use my factorization method. So I look for two values that when I substitute them into minus 5, I can multiply. When I substitute the values, it will add up to minus 5. And when I multiply the values, it will give me what? My AC, which was my AC, which is 6. You can check up on how to solve for factorization method and quadratic equation in my previous videos. So look at this. This will be what? This will be x squared. I know that the two values will be minus 3x and minus 2x, because minus 3 minus 2 will give us minus 5, and minus 3 times minus 2 will give us 6. So this is plus 6 is equal to 0. Then I can factorize this by bringing out my x and having here as x minus 3, and then bringing out what is the common factor between minus 2x and 6, that is minus 2, and then here is what? X minus 3 is equal to 0. So therefore, grouping them, I have here as x minus 3 bracket what? X minus 2 equal to 0. Therefore, my x is equal to 3 or my x is equal to 2. Remember, we did this by making x minus 3 equal to 0 or x minus 2 equal to 0. Then I took my minus 3 over to the equality sign and it became plus 3. Took my minus 2 over to the equality sign and it became plus 2. So these are the two values of x for which when I plug it into this equation, I get the 0. I get my equation equal to 0. So the zeros of my polynomial for number 1 is what? 3 and 2. Let's do for number 2. Number 2, we have that p2 of x, that's our p2 of x. Remember, we want to equate it to be equal to what? 0. That is, our x squared minus 1 will be equal to 0. So I can take my minus 1 over to the equality sign and it becomes x squared is equal to what? 1. And I find the square root of both sides, so I can make my x a single value. So that will be x is equal to, now when you're taking the square root of both sides, because of this has a square, whenever you're taking the square root of a squared value, you must put in plus or minus in the square root. So there will be plus or minus what? 1. And my x therefore is equal to either plus, now what is plus, what's the square root of 1? That is 1, right? So my x is equal to either I say plus 1, which is the first value, or just say 1 in essence, 1 or what? Minus 1. I can also solve this by using difference of two squares, because I know that this x squared minus 1 can be written as what? X squared minus 1 squared, because 1 square is still 1. And according to this looks like what? The difference of two squares. And how do we solve difference of two squares? It will be x plus 1 and x minus 1, all equal to what? Our 0. So therefore, I can then solve this according to our quadratic formula by doing what? Separating them. So here will be what? X plus 1 is equal to 0, or x minus 1 is equal to 0. Then my x is equal to minus 1, or x is equal to what? When minus 1 cross over, it becomes what? Equal to plus 1. So we can see that we still get the same thing either if we use any of the two methods. So this is how to get the zeros of the polynomial. Always equate your polynomial to be equal to 0 and then solve it. So when we come back next time, we'll take more difficult questions, maybe even enter into the remainder theorem, and I think you enjoy this topic. So see you in the next video.